Welcome back to Man Across New Horizons. I'm dear darling, and shall we see what's going on a lovely little island of Fawnhollow today, where we have plenty of fodder to talk about today, as you might expect, because, well, you wouldn't actually expect, I don't know why I did that in, but because I am recording a bit later today, because I spent the last couple of hours finishing off Bugsnax. I didn't mean to, but I was just so engaged, and I had to see it through to the end, and once it got to a point where it was near the ending, and I was like, you know what? Let's just knock it out. Let's just finish the game today. So we're going to talk about Bugsnax today. If you don't want spoilers before that episode comes up, I would recommend you stop watching this video and come back to it later, or whatever you want. If you don't mind about spoilers, or if you just want to hear my opinions on it anyway, or anything like that, or if you're from the future, then carry on watching. So hello there everyone. Right now in Fawnhollow at 6:38 PM on Saturday, August 14th, 2021. No big announcements today. Just have a fun weekend out there. Yeah, I like talking about them in Animal Crossing videos because it gives me a bit of time to sort of reflect on the game. I can express my thoughts a bit more after I've done a little bit more looking into it, and also I'm not trying to just be entertaining for entertaining's sake. Like I don't really play much up for entertainment's sake in Animal Crossing. I'm just sort of here talking, I suppose. But yeah, I'd like to point out, from fact, that this isn't really a review of Bugsnax. I'm just gonna kind of randomly talk about it. If anything, it's just sort of like I just want to have some thoughts about it, and I just want to talk about it. I'm not a professional reviewer. This is not structured or anything. It's just off the top of my head. On the whole, I think Bugsnax is a fantastic game. I would put it. I'm not sure if it quite deserves to get like a 9 out of 10, but I would put it somewhere in the 8, maybe high 7s, low 8s sort of range. Is somewhere in there. And key points being, it's probably one of the most charismatic games I've ever played, but there's so much charm and charisma, surprising amount of depth into the characters as well. The story is great. It executes its appeal quite well of the sort of happy, fun, childish fever dream with a little bit of unease going out all the time, and it's a game where I actually think it sticks the landing compared to a lot of other games with this sort of story-based charm. The only downside I really have is mechanically, I think it kind of falls off a little bit. I think mechanically catching his Bugsnax, which is a core premise of a game, is cool and it's quite fun to figure them out, but a lot of the times executing them, especially in the later game, kind of gets a bit more tedious. That could be on me because it could be that I didn't find out the best way to catch them, but a lot of the times I just was like, early game I was catching Bugsnax as much as I could. Late game I was just like, I'm only going to catch him if I need him for a quest, because on the plus side, there's not really much need or motivation to. On the downside, it was really tedious doing some of the quests and figuring them out. There's a little bit of mixed clarity there, but I think it's not enough to upset the balance of game and leave it. It doesn't leave a sour taste in my mouth. It's just more like, all right, let's get through this so I can talk to the characters more, basically. Okay, so I guess we'll expand a bit more of the negative things because I've got a lot more positive things to say. If you don't know what Bugsnax is, there's a whole Let's Play of it on my channel, which I'd recommend you go check out. Or if you don't, it's fair enough. It's sort of like a collection-based game. It's along the lines of sort of like a Slime Rancher and Pokemon Snap is what I've heard people comparing to. It's a sort of like exploration-based game where you've got this wild world of these animal creatures which are combined with snacks, hence the name Bugsnax, which you need to go around catching and feeding to people, and you meet a load of characters called Grampuses, which are these sort of like weird Sesame Street-esque characters. I don't really know what to compare them to, but they don't look out, but you could totally see like a kids movie being made for them, like, you know, what's that, like the Ugly Monsters movie or something. It's very along that sort of lines. Very strange. And the whole premise is the Bugsnax is this weird discovery here on Saktooth Island from this explorer called Lisbeth, and you sort of go there as a journalist to basically discover if they're true and the stories behind them. Along the way you meet a whole colourful cast because you find out that Lisbeth has gone missing, and the entire town and civilization that has been there for a year has sort of like fallen apart, and it's your job to bring everyone back and find out what happened to Lisbeth. Okay, that's basically the general premise. I am going to absolutely be spoiling the entire game in this sort of talk about it, so if you don't want to get spoiled, please, you know, stop watching. That's your second warning. Okay, so yeah, I guess I'll just talk about everything at once. I was going to talk about mechanics first, but that's a bit difficult. Bugsnax is, if you've seen the trailers, you've probably seen it for yourself. This game has a really weird sense of unease and creepiness to it, and you would be kind of right. Like, I think everyone called it straight off the bat when they saw the trailer for this weird, colourful Dr. Seuss like trip, basically, full of all these colourful cast of characters, these adorably cute creatures with all the very charming and very cutesy visuals and that sort of thing. People were just like, there's something weird going on, because there's a really odd sense of unease when it comes to playing the game, and part of it is not just the way they aesthetically everything looks so cute, too cute, and also very odd at the same time. There's a weird sense of mechanically from the unease as well. The fact that you can eat these Bugsnax that are somehow irresistibly delicious, to quote the Grumpuses, the race on that island. They're irresistibly delicious, and you get some weird sort of body horror going on, that when you eat them, a part of your body turns into them, and it seems weirdly irreversible, maybe. It's not actually irreversible, as it turns out, but it's a very sort of strange sense of unease going on, and I think me, along with everyone else, was like, I bet this game is going to turn into some sort of crazy survival horror, and it's going to be super dark, everyone's going to like murder, and there's going to be like cannibalism or something going on. I'm actually really glad to say it doesn't quite go that far. This is very interesting, because it's a very tried and overdone sort of cliche, isn't it, of, oh, really cutesy Wonderland, actually deep dark horror full of like horrific things and nightmarish creations. Bugsnax kind of goes down that route, but it doesn't go the whole way, which I think actually is good. Which you might just say is that, why is that good? Like, isn't it just like completely boring that way? It's sort of like fulfilling what it is. Yeah, but it's so, we've done so much of it. Sorry, I'm quite hungry if you hear my stomach grumble. We've done so much of it having the cutesy art style, have it actually being like a horror trope, so much that it would be really boring, and I think a forced subversion in the case of Bugsnax of what happens, and it would actually miss out on a lot of the charm and the cutesiness in the game. Bugsnax actually are kind of a horrific thing. It turns out they're not like eldritch abominations or anything like that. They're parasites, essentially. They've made themselves be irresistibly delicious, so that you eat them uncontrollably, and then eventually you'll just be taken over by Bugsnax. And it turns out the entire island of Snaktooth Island is made out of Bugsnax. Everything is Bugsnax, and everything always will be. It's all basically one sort of what's the word? There's sort of like one mind legion. There's a word that I can't think of what's going on. So there's certainly that sort of horror element going on, where you're just like, what the heck? These are all nightmarish creatures in a very cute candy-coated, sugar-coated shell, which is, fine. But they don't go even further. They don't go into like body mutilation, they don't go into like horrific tropes or anything. Once they pulled back the veil, being like, these things are things to be not so easily trifled with, they go back basically into their much more charming thing of being like, alright, now we got to work together. It feels much more like a kid's adventure story from that point onwards, which is perfect, by the way, for Bugsnax, which is why I often talk about it in, especially the later half of the Let's Play. I'm just like, I bet there's some weird subversion's going to happen, and like maybe some sort of cannibalistic tribe. Cannibalism's going to happen, and, especially with my predictions of what happened to Elizabeth, is she had to eat Bugsnax and she eventually got turned into one or something to survive. It kind of happened that way, but my picture of it was going to be some sort of nightmare scenario, like people being trapped, like the horror stories you hear, people being trapped out in like deserted islands or things and having to resort to cannibalism to live. It turns out that didn't happen. Lisbeth basically just assimilated with the Bugsnax, because the whole island's Bugsnax and it's slowly falling apart, and she's trying to basically save all the other people on the island by assimilating with them. And that's what she does. And then it seems like it's going to slam dunk you with like the creepiness, especially with the Undersnacks, which is basically the final area of the game, where it seems like something super creepy is going to happen. It seems like everything's going to come apart. You're going to see the dark underbelly, and you do see the dark underbelly, but it's not grimdark. It's just kind of spooky, I suppose. And it really fits so well. And after, in the moment I was playing the game, I was just honestly a little bit surprised that they pulled back a little bit. But then I thought about it a bit more, and the reason why is because the focus isn't really on the Bugsnax, to be honest. The charm is there to Bugsnax to sort of lure you in amusingly, like the parasites they are. But the charm is actually in the characters. The characters, I'm not going to say the story sort of, the story sort of, I guess, kind of gets lumped in with characters. The characters is by far and away the best part of Bugsnax. The cast is so colourful, they've all got such distinct personalities, and despite the fact, if you think about it, you don't get huge amounts of dialogue or conversation. I'd imagine if you summed them all up, you'd probably only get about like 20 minutes of dialogue with each character. But they each ooze such personality, and it's not just like cookie cutter straightforward personality as I initially expected with a sort of childish presentation of a game. I was like, oh, you meet Philbo, or he's sort of like the plucky sidekick character who's a little bit clumsy and People don't really like him, that sort of thing. But he's got a lot more going on. You know, you start to see his insecurities, as how he's trying to fight like his own seeming incompetence, trying to fill in shoes which he knows which are never too big to fill, and thus he has no self-confidence in himself, and then it sort of just becomes a tumbling disaster. But how hard he tries to basically appease everyone and make everyone feel happy, like as if everyone could be one big community again. It's really heartbreaking to see. I mean, you like meet the farmer, you meet Wambus, that's his name. You meet Wambus and he's like, well, no, he's just like the no-nonsense farmer, that sort of thing. But you really see that he's trying to save his kind of like failing relationship, and like he's here basically just to escape from the fact that he feels like a failure himself, but he's a farmer, but he can't basically grow anything, and he's just here basically to escape his problems. It's a very overarching theme, but everyone is basically has gone to Snack Island to try and ignore their problems. They're here to escape, basically, quite literally. I suppose that's what we're kind of doing as well when we're playing the game, ironically. And the Bugsnax are often a lot of the things that they use to try and fill the void in their life, and it's interesting talking to the characters and doing their side quests to find out exactly what's they're missing in their life. Like, you know, Philbo, he's just like, I'm such a useless leader, I'm no good for anything, what's the point of me even doing this? I can't fill in the role that Lisbeth filled. And then Wambus is like, I can't, I'm trying to save, I'm trying to fill in the love of my life, Tiffany, like, we're having a bit of a rocky relationship right now, and I'm feeling like a failure of farming. I need to be able to provide and protect for everyone, but I can't even do that. So how am I going to do anything? Like, I can't even grow crops. It's a bad reflection on me as a person. And then, you know, I'm going to talk about all of them because the characters are awesome. Who do you meet next? Befka. Befka's definitely on the run from something. She's basically kind of like a vigilante, like a spy-based vigilante. She's trying to expose people for people who do bad things, and she's trying to bring justice to them, and, you know, be like, hey, look at all the corruption which is going on. This isn't cool. But by doing that, she's burning so many other bridges without herself, and she's lost so many friends and her own family and home and that sort of thing, just by people not, from her eyes, being like, they're not willing to accept the truth. Like, maybe it's like a thankless job she's doing, and, you know, she uses Bugsnax to fill the void because she thinks just everyone's going to leave her eventually. And which is why she's so attached to you to the beginning. She calls you like her BFF almost immediately. She latches onto you really quickly, and, you know, she's very defeatist about it. She thinks that you two are going to leave her at some point, that you two will grow sick of her antics, even that she's just doing what she thinks should be done. She's trying to bring justice to the world and that sort of thing. And it's really like nice to see these sort of peeks behind the curtains, I suppose. Is Neon Tetra an ocean fish? Probably. Behind these characters, that they all fall into stereotypes, yeah, but they fall into well fleshed out stereotypes and that sort of thing. I'm gonna talk about all the characters because I love to talk about them. Like, even Lisbeth herself, like, she's an adventurer. She's got like a lust for adventure, but she's got like an unending appetite for it. She wants to be like, she wants to have a big discovery and be famous or something. And especially because her last discovery turned out to basically be a giant hoax, and she felt humiliated, embarrassed over what happened. Now that she feels like she's finally onto something, she's going like head over heel recklessly, trying to get to the bottom of Bugsnax and, I suppose, prove her existence and that sort of thing. Even more so that she kind of ends up endangering everyone, and at the end, spoilers for the final cutscene, but I already spoiled so much already, she tries to play the martyr, just being like, this is my fault, everything's happened, let me sacrifice myself for everyone again. And Eggabell, who we'll get onto in a second, steps up being like, stop playing the martyr. You're not alone, you don't need to do it like this. And Eggabell, you know, someone who's very insecure about herself, she feels like she's a drag on everyone, and she can't really see her own values and worth. Turns to Bugsnax to sort of fill that void, and she tries to better herself in other ways. She tries to get stronger, like by training with like the gym lad person and that sort of thing. She doesn't see the value of her in like treating everyone. She basically wants to protect everyone as well, but she's like, she feels like she can't protect Lisbeth as well, which is why she joins her for a lot of these adventures, and especially where she loses Lisbeth towards the end. She gets really down on herself, being like, what do I do? That's something. It's really cool to see. If I haven't, you know, expressed that enough. Who else do you see? Who do you meet next? Is it Triffany? I think it's Triffany. Triffany being like a very nihilistic, defeatist archaeologist. She's trying to find out basically what happened to her grandma from a diary, and she's trying to basically remember what happened and she's like an explorer and adventurous herself, and she has a huge fear of basically just being forgotten, like not being remembered, of that sort of thing, and which is why she's so preoccupied with trying to find out what happened to her grandma, because she wants her grandma to be remembered. Or it might have been her mother, I can't remember. And then, yeah, I guess she has a very nihilistic streak with that sort of thing, and she's like, maybe everything about me is just going to be left forgotten to the island. And also, you can hear it a lot in her bad ending sort of dialogue, which, by the way, I didn't know there was different endings in Bugsnax. Apparently you can actually get bad endings. There's bad endings and good endings. They all flesh out the character a bit more. It's like addiction, I suppose, in some sense. Or Bugsnax, them rejecting it as being like them bettering themselves as people. They're rejecting exactly their weaknesses, but them succumbing to Bugsnax and just like devouring all is them like succumbing to their own failures and that sort of thing, and just like letting it consume them, which eventually leads them to perish, which is, you know, pretty dramatic, no less in this sort of game. But I mean, it's not like it's particularly like gruesome or anything. We sort of just like slowly turn into Bugsnax and then we just like poof out of existence. But it's interesting. There's a aroma pot, clay, just clay. Trifly, favorite character, by the way. Yeah, and yeah, you see it a lot more in the way Trifany dies, where she just accepts that she, like her grandma, is going to be forgotten on this island. And that's it, that's her story there. She's so defeatist about everything, and it really shines through. I've got to give huge compliments to the voice actors. They really bring out the characters. Like Bethany, you can tell from very early on, she's got some sort of insecurities and like some sort of something going on, rather than just her sort of like gossip girl demeanor. Trifany as well, you can hear it in her voice how like defeatist she is and nihilistic and pessimistic she is about everything, but she's still got like this very sort of chirpy personality anyway, and it's just like, oh, I love these sort of things. Who have we not talked about? It's about Chandlo. He's like Chandlo and Snorpy, they kind of go hand in hand. They're lovers basically, and they both basically want to protect each other through different ways. Chandlo through his brute strength, and he keeps trying to get stronger and stronger and stronger because he feels like he's never going to be strong enough to be able to protect Snorpy. And Snorpy being, he's basically sort of super paranoid about their equivalent of Illuminati existing, seeking them out, that he's like learning all he can to trying to protect him, trying to protect Chandlo even by keeping secrets from him and that sort of thing. I forgot what else I was going to say. Yeah, and, you know, I mean, also they're a really good couple together. Also, really good, like, representation in this game. And really good, like, way of just talking about it. Like, the characters don't feel like they're forced, they're not, like, forced representation for representation's sake. They're just natural characters who also just happen to be LGBT as well, you know? Like, I didn't even... I didn't even, like, fully clock that Floofty is a character I'm not spoken about. They're non-binary. They've always been referred to as a sibling, and they use they/them pronouns. Didn't even occur to me, because that's how like seamlessly they were like incorporated in the story. It's like not a big deal, which I always love to see in that sort of thing. And they have a lesbian partnership between Lisbeth and Egbel. They have a gay one between Snorpy and Chandlo. They have a straight one as well between Trifany and Rambus. It's cool. Time, friendship, money. Pick one. Friendship. Time's also a good one. Hey, good answer, kiddo. I know time is tempting and money's real tempting, but friends are gold. Shoot, with us being on the same brain wavelength like this, I think our friendship's just getting started. Or how about we help it get started even more by me giving you a fossil? Yeah, and Cromdo being like some sleazy salesman or whatever, but he's basically someone who tried to be good in the past, but he's basically been stomped down and it's never worked out for him, so he's become a lot more jaded of that sort of thing. And he's just trying to make his big break here on Snacktooth Island. That's my not Chandlo, Cromdo impersonation. Who are we missing? A Wiggle, you know? She was a one-hit wonder, and she's slowly fading from stardom, and she's trying to reignite that sort of passion again. And trying to not basically fade out from the public eye just like that, and have her career be over barely after it started. And then, you know, Gramble, he's got a lot of family issues, and he often, you know, is very implied that people don't love him. His family just up and left him at some point one day, and that's really heartbreaking to see. And he's basically bonding with Bugsnax to fill that sort of hole in his life. And then basically at the end, you have this huge like climactic final battle or whatever. Well, as much as you can using a a pet finding game, I suppose, using the mechanics that you learned before, and then they basically all come to that realization like through their side quests. Once you finish their side quests, you see them at their lowest, and then they basically come to their own realization afterwards, and they grow as a person. You know, I think I missed someone. Oh, I missed out Floofty. They're like a scientist basically who cares not for anything, cares not for like feelings or anyone else or that sort of thing. They only care about studying and learning more about the world, and then in the end they learn that there's more to it, that they should perhaps be not only a bit more caring to their brother Snorpy, that they should learn about other Grumpuses and that sort of thing, even if it's difficult, because that's, you know, is it to truly live if you don't connect with anyone, I suppose, and that's not really what I meant to say, but that's a sort of lesson we learn, and it's really heartwarming. Like at the end, I was making like jokes, being like, "Oh, I can't believe they all had this revelation," but internally, I was just like, "This is so sweet to see." Like all go through this sort of character progression where you can see that they're all like these very stereotypical, flawed characters in certain ways. You know, you got the sleazy business, and then you got the pop diva stardom girl. That's something. You got the gossip girl who can't keep her nose out of anyone's business. Who always sticks her nose in people's business, and they come to a whole new revelations about who they are and who they can be, and they don't need Bugsnax, which is meant to definitely be some sort of addiction metaphor to like fill the empty hole in their lives. Oh, I didn't talk about Shelda. Shelda she's like some old woman who believes Bugsnax basically to be evil and sees them for a parasite they are, but feels like that no one listens to her just because she's nobody basically. So she puts on this fake persona of being like this grand sage. She puts on all these theatrics just to get people to like pay attention to what she wants to say, and you know, she learns later that people can listen to what she says anyway. She doesn't need to basically fake it till you make it. It's really, like, I'm not sure if I'm doing this justice, and the fact I just talked about these characters for 20 minutes probably should give you an indication of how much I love these characters. They're so simple in the end. Like, you don't hear too much. You do hear like a reasonable amount of dialogue, but for a story-based game, you don't hear that much dialogue from them. Especially, and the fact that there's like, how many are there? Like 12? 13? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, wait. Triffany, Wambus, Filbo, Lisbeth, Eggbell, that's my controller. Jano, Snorpy, Floofty, Cromdo. Wait, I missed that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14? That sounds about right. 13, 14-ish. Characters. In fact, I've talked about them for like 20 minutes already. Should show to you how much I think they're awesome. I think they're surprisingly well developed, and that's what really caught me off guard, because I thought this game, I came in at it with a Slime Rancher mentality. I did like Slime Rancher, but I eventually got a bit bored of it. I thought it was just about to be like collecting Bugsnax, rearing them up and that sort of things, and maybe eating them and like customizing them. I didn't really want to customize and feed the Grumpuses, all the different Bugsnax to like. And I know some people, from what I can tell from the reviews and that sort of thing, they like to customize their Grumpus with all these different things and make some really weird, like Frankenstein's monsters. I wasn't about that. I just wanted them to kind of stay the way they are. If anything, I wanted to feed them no Bugsnax, but you kind of had to for the story. Yeah, I think that's really what caught me not off guard necessarily, but it was a pleasant surprise to see in Bugsnax. It was that they didn't delve that whole way, because the entire time I was like, I'm going to regret doing these side stories, because these Bugsnax are like, where did I was going that way. These Bugsnax are evil, and by me feeding them to them, it's going to end up horribly for them. No, it just had a very pleasant story. It had a dark underbelly, so to speak, yeah, but it pleasantly resolved itself in the end. And we got to basically have a story with all the Grumpuses, and you get to have like a nice epilogue of all of them, where you can see how it all worked out for them. Like Filbo ran for mayor, he had self-confidence, and he actually became mayor, and everyone's basically good friends. Everyone like worked together to do what they, and basically achieve what they said they were going to do, and they were very enlightened throughout all of it, and it's awesome. It was so cool to see, and I loved it. I will say Bugsnax, now to get on to like I've been gushing about how fun it is, and it's charming. By the way, also the Bugsnax, I haven't even talked about Bugsnax. Super charming. They're not the main, surprisingly to me, not the main focus of the game, but they're so like a Dorado. They're so charming, especially when they speak to each other. They like say their names sort of like Pokemon style, which obviously must be a very heavy inspiration. But they're so memorable. Like, you know, you got the little strawberry that runs around going strawberry, strawberry, and you got the bird going bunga 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 bunga. They're so catchy and they're so cute. They're in fact too cute. They're so cute that you're just like, oh, they can't be this cute. There must be something dark and sinister going on. There is something dark and sinister, but I can't express how happy I am that they didn't go for just straight up a cliche horror thing. It's horrifying, yeah, but it's not like it's the dark underbelly of Bugsnax. It's not like the worst thing I've ever seen of body horror mutilation. And I read in an interview that they could have. They like one of your initial things that they were considering was basically to make everyone into like parasitic zombies and that sort of thing, where they just mindlessly eat each other and that sort of thing. But they didn't go that far. You know, I fully expected Lisbeth at the end to be assimilated with a Bugsnax and basically be the queen of Bugsnax that everyone kept on talking about, and that she would be the true evil villain that we had to fight in the game. But no, she's there. She's still herself, and she's basically just doing it to trying to protect everyone else. And it just fits the sort of feel they were going for, which I'm now much more certainly aware of it. They're not trying to go for the complete horrors, scare you out of your wits end or something through pure horror or anything like that. They're trying to go for a cutesy, well-meaning, colourful, lovely world with just a little bit of unease, just a little bit, such that you go like, it's not all obviously perfect. There's something weirdly going on, and I suppose that mirrors it in all the characters as well. That they all seem like a colourful cast. Maybe not everything's completely sorted out, but just a little bit is missing from each of them, and they all try and fill that missing part of them with Bugsnax, and you know, to varying degrees of success. I'm just going to do a quick bit mechanically because I want to talk about the endings as well. Mechanically, I think is where it falls down. I think it does really well throughout like the first, I'm going to say like 5 hours or so of a game, where I'm just like, oh, I love using out all these new gadgets, I love trying them out. But then once you got all of them and you need to start catching Bugsnax, a lot of it becomes a little bit tedious, in my opinion. Not everyone's going to think that way, I certainly think. I think some people are going to have a much easier time, some people are going to have a worse time. But what I was doing, I was basically like, this is a little bit annoying, isn't it? I'm pretty sure we got a Dorado, so I'm selling it. It's a little bit annoying, like I can't figure out how to catch them these Bugsnax, and some of them are a lot more tedious because like you had to lure them to like different areas, you had to lure other Bugsnax near each other. It's a little bit glitchy here and there, I will say. I had a lot of random, not just clipping, but like a lot with like teleportation and interactions or things, which happens naturally if you have so many different systems going on, so I can't really blame the game for that. And it didn't really take me out of the game, so they're not like, I didn't have anything game breaking. It was just more, some of them were kind of annoying in the end. But that's not really a big issue because it kind of depends on your personality. If you like tinkering with tons of different systems together and like seeing your sort of like Rube Goldberg machines unfold, you'll probably love it. But for me, at some point I was like, okay, give me more of a character. I just want to catch this bug just so I can listen to the story and character more, which is more just to do with my own sort of preference of, I like characters, I like lore, I like those sort of things all together, which is why I was so heavily, I suppose, emphasizing it in my mind. I was just like, hey, you know, it's cool and all that you got these systems working together. I just kind of want to talk to know, you know, like Bethka a bit more and see what she's saying, she's got to say about this sort of thing, and etc. etc. Yeah, that's basically it. And what's even more mind-boggling to me is this game has multiple endings. Kind of. Like, well, it's on a sliding scale from basically the good ending, which is what I got, where you save everyone, to the bad ending, where everyone dies. The fact that, well, everyone but Philbo can die. I criticised it a little bit when I was playing, because I was like, oh, there's not really many stakes here, because it seems like everyone's invincible and they can all hold their own, like, what's going on? And that's because I did my due diligence. I finished the stories for everyone. I finished the side stories for everyone. It turns out if you don't finish a character's side story, they are vulnerable at the end of a final cutscene, and that if for every Bugsnax you miss, rather than swatting them away and not eating them, they actually eat them. And if they eat too many of them, like if you feed them too many overall, and then they eat the Bugsnax such that the whole body gets transformed in the final in the final battle, yeah, that's it. They succumb to the Bugsnax and they die. And what's even more crazy is that you can see so much more about character development there. You can see the fact that they aren't like, they didn't reach their enlightenment and that sort of thing. They give in to their own not temptations and desires and that sort of thing. Like, especially with, like, I think it's most obvious with, like, Wambus and Triffany, where they're just like, oh, you know, what's even the point anymore? I'm such a failure. I don't mean to laugh at that, but yeah. It's crazy that the game even has different endings, and it's really heart-wrenching to hear them. Like, I listened to them, and I think it just sort of goes to show how much I thought the characters were really cool. Like, listening to Chandlo, like, see Snorpy die, like, hearing his cry, just, like, it hurt me. I went, no, Chandlo. And then hearing his monologue at the end, because they have a monologues replaced in the epilogue, from rather being something like, oh, you know what? You know, I guess I am strong enough, that sort of thing. And Snorpy, when did he get so strong as well? Man, looks like maybe I've reached my limit, but now Snorpy's got so much more to go as well, and we'll help each other and that sort of thing. He's just like, you know what, Snorpy, how could this happen? I wasn't strong enough to protect you. You can see him succumb to it, and he's like, if a Grumpinati out there, I'm gonna crush him. He's almost like Path of Vengeance or whatever, just for Chandler as an example. And it's really cool to see. I can't believe there are multiple endings in that game. It's like, is it that important to the game and that sort of thing? No, I guess not really, but the fact that I suppose it shows a lot of love and care went into these characters, which is fantastic. And I know I'm going over time, the voice acting in the game is so good. The characters come across so amazingly well. And even the Bugsnax have such sort of charm that I ended up parroting basically all of the Bugsnax as they kept saying their thing. So you might be surprised that in the end I'm giving this game like an 8 or something. Yeah, I think around low 8s to mid 8s is probably what I'd give it, and it's because the gameplay, it does drag it a little bit. It's not a game I would want to replay, but it was a game where I would absolutely love to watch cutscenes again, is probably how I'd put it. It's so much charm and charisma, and unlike Tango Tower, which also had a lot of charming and charismatic characters, I think it lands the ending. Which is very nice to see. I'm just happy that I got to see a happy ending with my characters. Like, you know me, I love a melancholic, I love a bittersweet ending, but the fact that I got to see it basically work out for my characters, even the ones which I thought were done for, like Lisbeth and Egbel, you know, it warms your heart. Yeah, okay, maybe it doesn't make you feel tragic and sad or that sort of thing, but, you know, I worked for that happy ending, you know, and I went through all the side quests and with all the characters, so I'm glad that I got to see it come to fruition. So yeah, would I recommend you play Bugsnax? Maybe. You know, kind of depends. If you're not a very story-driven person, maybe Bugsnax isn't really for you. But if you love a colourful cast of characters, absolutely, give it a shot. That's what I got to say. Or, you know, watch it on my channel if you really want. But yeah, I guess we'll round off Bugsnax. Well, not Bugsnax, me talking about Bugsnax there. So, yeah, you'll get to see the ending of that in a couple weeks or so. Or if you're from the future, then I guess you've already seen it. But yeah, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares all greatly appreciated. Join me Dear Darling Discord. Follow me on Twitter down below. I hope we can see each other again. But for now, it's farewell. So until next time, bye bye for now. I still haven't decided what I'm going to play after Bugsnax as well, so that's a difficulty.